Welcome, Brendan.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brendan's from Pebble Design, a business that was founded in 1991. He's the CEO and founder.
98.
98, sorry.
98.
Brendan's been involved in digital marketing for around about 17 years and web design for about 27 years.
Yeah.
Brendan's business is famous for high quality websites, and Brendan's passion is about delivering real outcomes for his customers. And in putting together these series of educational webinars, a lot of the information that our clients are looking for, Brendan's got a really great handle on. The format of today is that Brendan's got a presentation to go through. We are videoing today, so please don't let that put you off. We want to be able to share this with our clients over in Broome and WA and up north, and hello to those guys that are watching at some point in the future.
Yeah.
So please don't be put off by that. Brendan will hang around for any questions that are at the end, but because we're all here to learn from each other, let's try and get as many of those questions happening at the end, because you don't know that the answer to that question might help the person sitting next to you. So welcome again, and I'll pass you over to Brendan.
Thank you, Justin. I really appreciate the opportunity that Justin's provided, and I had a chat with him a few months ago, and I really got from Justin how much he cares about his clients and wanting to help them. So we really align in that direction together, and so I'm grateful for all of you for coming here, because I myself have come down from Sunshine Coast. So I appreciate everyone's time and effort to get you, because time is probably our most precious commodity. I'll get straight into it. Today is more, there is a lot that I could share with the 18 years that I've been running my business. So I just thought I'd start with try and keep us a little bit shorter. And for me, one of the biggest things in my life is questions, asking lots of questions. It all comes down to, and this started right when I was a kid. I used to just pull everything apart, much to my parents' frustration, and I just wanted to know how it worked. I was just curious all the time. Funny thing is, though, that gets shut down in a lot of kids when you go to school. Stop asking so much questions and all that. But as I've got on in years, I find that the questions that we ask really determine the reality that we get to live. And the funny thing is, the more questions I ask and the more I learn, I realise how little I actually know. And it's you think I've achieved a lot of success in my business. I've helped a lot of our clients, but I think for me, it's the big outtake that I want you guys to really hopefully take away from here is around this asking questions. So it's just to hopefully I can inspire you or stimulate you just to ask a couple more questions. Just go a little bit deeper on some things, because and it's interesting how I found this quote, learn from yesterday, live for today, hope for tomorrow. And this actually fits to a T what I want to talk about today. Because yesterday is our past, and there is a lot of wisdom to be learnt from. But I think, especially for myself, I often get caught up in, well, I tried that in the past and it didn't work. Rather than taking the wisdom from that, I get stuck on going, I won't try that again. And it's really taking the wisdom that we learnt from yesterday, applying it to today, which is rapidly changing. So, the rapid changes in today's market are things like social media. So I'll touch on a bit of social media stuff for you guys, just to give you a bit of a perspective of where that's going, especially for the hotel industry, because that's one thing that I focus a lot of my energy on. We don't just do web design, we specialise in web design for hotels specifically and rights management. So it's every bit of information that I learn about, I'm trying to put into the equation of how is that going to help our clients, because there's a ton of technology out there, but how do we make it relevant and interesting and useful for our clients? And then hope for tomorrow, that comes back to the third part of my talk, which I'm going to talk about a little bit about vision. And I just finished a good book, Simon Sinek, The Power of Why. If anyone's not read it or seen his YouTube or TED talk, it's a fantastic book just on, again, the importance of having a vision with what we do. And I work with a lot of different hotel owners and managers, and I see the different stages that they're at in their business. And sometimes, and I know this because it's happened in my, over the 18 years of building my business, I've seen how I've occasionally lost the reason why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I end up just showing up at work each day and I think, well, what am I doing here? And you can't afford to do that when you've got a team of people behind you who look up to you for that vision. What is it that you're doing? If your team is looking up for you, that your reservations team, your cleaning team, they're looking to you for the inspiration for what you do. Hopefully, you're able to give them that guidance and support them in doing their job better that day. So the three things that I do want to touch on today is more specifically direct bookings, social media, and 10 times in your results, improving your vision. And that's what we'll cover today. The biggest thing that one of the sort of epiphanies for me when I was a young kid, I'm originally from South Africa, grew up in Johannesburg, 2 suburbs away from where Elon Musk used to go to school. He's done great things. I just read his book too. He's an amazing character, and you look at his life story and why he's ended up asking so many big questions and challenging so many industries to go on to change the rules in his direction, which is quite interesting. But it happened when I was probably about 16, and I was at high school in South Africa. There was a lot of unrest because it was right at the time when apartheid was getting broken down. So it was messy watching the news every night. There was a lot of ugly scenes on TV at the time. TV was the main media of the day, and that's certainly what everyone was watching, and that's what was influencing everyone's opinions. And I remember getting home from school, had a busy day at school, and I was watching the news that night, and I'd seen these horrific scenes of somebody being burned with a rubber tie around their neck. There was these huge, it was just horrific scenes, and it's like, wow, that was just too much for me at 16 to be taking in. That there was, and for me, I had a friend, and the broadcast said live happening in Alexandra Township, and I now got really worried because my best friend used to live in Alexandria, right next to the township, and because the two biggest townships where there was a lot of unrest going on was Soweto and Alexandria, and I was panicking now. It was like, my best friend is there, and it looks like World War III just broke out, and it's just a mess. And I asked my mum, can I call my friend and see if he's okay? And in those days, it was one of those old, dial-up phones. It's funny, the young guys at work don't even know what those are. They wouldn't know how to make a phone call on one of those telephones, that's how funny it is. And we weren't allowed to use it. It was like, and I remember the phone used to sit on an altar. It was like this, that cost money to use that machine, and you don't use it often. But I asked my mum special permission, can I call my friend? I'm really worried. And I rang David up, David Reed, and I said to him, are you okay? I'm really worried about you. And he said, why? What are you talking about? And I said, well, haven't you watched the news? Or can't you see out your window? Everyone's getting burned, and there's riots, and there's police everywhere. And because these black tyres, when they catch fire, they emit this black smoke that just goes up into the air. It's just a really thick, dark black smoke. And it's just horrific to see that. And I said to him, surely you can see the black smoke and everything from your house. He said, there's nothing. There's blue skies here. He said, there's nothing going on here. And I put the phone down and I said, well, what is going on? Why is the television reporting that this is happening live right now and it's not happening? And for me, that was the epiphany. I've gone, maybe I should stop believing everything I see in the mainstream media. And that, how does this relate back to what I see happening today in the hotel industry is the same thing happening with the OTAs, the online travel agencies. I'm seeing they are so massive, and the information that they are pumping out, booking.com, booking.yeah, and the money that they are spending on advertising, which I'll get into a bit more, is really changing people's opinion of how to get things. So, and it's that mass media which is really controlling people's thoughts. And this is what we're up against in the hotel industry. We have to be aware of how the media is being used and what the general public are responding to. They're almost being programmed. We are all getting programmed. The more you watch television and read the newspaper, we're just getting programmed the whole time. So it's just making conscious choices of what is being said out there and what is the general consensus. Because I hear stories from our clients. We've had regular clients, they've come here for the last 5 years and they are booking on booking.com. Not with us direct anymore. It's like, really? Because they are just, they sit there, they watch the TV. Oh yeah, booking.com, yeah, let's try that out. Oh yeah, that was good. They think they're booking with you direct, but they don't know that there's that third party in between. Interesting stats on how many years it's taken to reach 50 million people. So radio, the wireless, and that was one of the things I took apart my dad's radio. We won't get into that story. 38 years to reach 50 million. TV, 13 years. Now I know that one because I used to grow up watching it. I love that. And then Instagram came along, 1.5 years to reach 50 million people. And then of course there was an app for the phone, Angry Birds, 35 days to reach 50 million people. That's the world we live in. And these stats are from about a year ago. So, there hasn't been anything quite so significant that's smashed that amount of people. So in terms of where we are today, that's how media is having a massive influence and how quickly it distributes information. One of the important things for me, part of that, seeing what was happening in South Africa, I didn't like it. I really didn't like what was going on in South Africa. And I got this beautiful invitation from the South African government, and it said, we hereby have signed you up to 2 years military service in Southwest Africa on the front row in the infantry, and we're going to shoot at you all day, and you're going to stop all the people coming in from the other African countries. And I got that letter and I was like, wow, I don't think that's for me. And that wasn't part of my vision. So vision came into it, and the funny thing was, at the time, it went against everything and everyone that I was really, that was influential in my life. My whole school training, my parents, that was just the route you took. You did school, you went into the army for your 2 years compulsory service, and then you made a decision, what do you do after that? Go to uni or get a job? It wasn't really part of my vision. And I mean, this is a great saying that Henry David Thoreau, what you get by achieving your goals is not as important as what you become by achieving your goals. And I looked at, if I was to go and fight for 2 years, who would I become? And that was not the person I could see myself becoming. I'd be this hardened army person, where really at the end of the day I was a creative spirit and wanted to go and live life and explore and find out more about life. How that apply, I mean, how I ended up in Australia, it's just a quick story, because a lot of the stuff I watched on TV, my mum's favourite program was Dallas with J.R. Ewing. That was her favourite show. She never missed an episode. One of my favourite shows, The A-Team, that was always fun. So I had this impression of what America was about. So I thought, well, maybe that could be where I should go. Maybe I should go to America, because it seemed quite different over there, and they don't have this tension, and everybody's fighting each other. Then there was this other little island that I'd heard of, because I'd had a school friend move over to Australia. Her father worked for IBM, and he came over here to work. And I'd heard about this Hogs, Paul Hogan. That was a good show. It was always funny. And Skippy, of course. So I did end up moving to Australia when I was 18. Packed my bags up, and again, my friends couldn't understand it. My parents nearly disowned me. But I had a vision. I had a vision that life was more than just accepting the reality that was in front of me. There had to be more. There had to be something more out there. And so I came on my exploration to Australia. And I did, for 10 years, worked in lots of different jobs, did everything from sound engineering to juggling to, dishwashing to working as a graphic designer. I was studying computer engineering at one point, found that extremely boring, and ended up studying art instead, and then loved that and went into graphic design. And of course, this was, pre-computers in those early days. But was loving design, and 10 years after that I opened up Pebble Design. So that's been up and going for 18 years now. So that started very early days where everybody had a brochure in a hotel, and I actually started selling postcards to hotels. That was my first company. We would do postcards, we would sell the location, and we would do one for the hotel, and that was a very successful business. It started to really spread. But more and more clients started asking me, hey, can I get I need a big brochure, or and then I started talking to them about websites, because that was just starting to emerge at the time. And I remember doing a website for Novotel Twin Waters, and it was not allowed. Head office in Paris had said, absolutely not, you're not allowed to do that. And the cheeky general manager at the time, he said, look, we're going to give it a go. What harm could it do? We're up here on the Sunshine Coast, and they're all the way over there in Paris. They're not going to know what we're doing, because they're not even looking on the internet. At the time, nobody was, so it wasn't really a popular space. And it got so busy that they had to put on a couple of extra girls on reception to just answer all the emails every day. And it was, and then I got invited down to Melbourne, and before I knew it, I was talking to teams of general managers in Accor, and eventually ended up getting a job where we literally put work together for every single Accor in the Asia Pacific region. So that was a bit of a launch into that digital space. People didn't even know what a PDF document was at the time, and we changed their conference kits to electronic so they didn't have to print them, all sorts of things like that. So 18 years later, this is the team at Pebble. There's 11 of us now. That's my A team now. Amazing, talented bunch of people. Max is our cameraman today. He's part of that team as well. And we have a vision. We have a reason why we show up to work. And there's three things that really, I've always started with the vision to inspire people, because I love to travel, and booking a hotel online is normally quite a tedious experience and frustrating, because the website's not working, it's not fast enough, and all sorts of things. So I always wanted to build hotel websites. I thought I could change the world one website at a time, at least make the hotel industry a little bit more glamorous, because it was. I saw it as that. And we've had to evolve our reason why. That's the thing. Once you come up with a vision or a bit of a statement as to why you do what you do, that will naturally evolve over time. So for us, the world has become more complex, and nobody wants to deal with a more complex world. So we had to make it easier. So we had to inspire people and make it easy, especially the end guest, the end user guest. They now not just ringing you up and having a chat with you, they're looking at, they say, I see all different stats. It's anywhere from 5 to 35 websites that they will research before they make a booking. That's a lot of complicated information. So, and keeping that in mind, we put a lot of effort and energy into designing our site so that there's going to be, when people jump on that first page, they can just instantly recognize, oh, you guys are that company, or that's what you offer that's different. So easy is very important. And then what's evolved in the last 2 years especially is quick. And this is something that I'd have to say majority of the tech world is not really paying attention to, because majority of websites that we look at are very slow. And yes, we may have, NBN has been rolling out slowly in Australia, which is, for us, that was quite a serious issue. Our internet was getting very slow, and for a team of web designers working on slow internet, you can imagine how fun my day was, with all these guys just complaining. And I won't even go into the emails I used to get but we are on NBN now. So having things be quick is really important, and I still look at a lot of websites today that are quite slow. So that's a little bit of background there as well about me. So on to the three things. The biggest thing that I'm seeing that's affecting our clients in the market is Book Direct. So bookdirect.yeah. It really, and you want to look, here's some reasons why it's, when I start to dig deep, I mean, I've pretty much got my head down and we're building websites and we're doing photography and stuff like that. But the more I speak to my clients, the more I realize what a big problem this is out in the market. And I like to read a lot. I read a lot of industry blogs from Europe and America and pick up a lot of information all the time. $99 billion OTAs took in revenue last year alone, 2016. That's just so, welcome to the billion-dollar industry. You guys are all in the billion-dollar industry, and these guys know it, and they are taking all the money. So they've worked out how to get the money. So watch out for that. This is world statistics. Asia Pacific, that's where we would fall. They're actually saying 70-30%, so 70% to OTAs, 30% direct. Europe's pretty similar, Latin America's a little bit worse. Middle East is worse. US is 50-50, Russia, it's not so bad. So, and this was interesting too. I don't know if anybody's seen this publication from SiteMinder. They did a global hotel business index, and they took 2,100 hotels, and they asked them a whole series of questions. You can, or if you want to, I can give you this whole report. I like to just find the more interesting bits of information and see, well, okay, well, what's relevant and what do we need to do to change? So two of the big questions again. What are your biggest business focuses and what are your biggest challenges? And the same answer for both, increasing direct online bookings, driving guests to your website to book direct. I've gone, isn't that interesting that this is such a high priority for hoteliers worldwide, especially when there's a $99 billion industry, getting plumper off it. So interesting stats there. Found this report too. So this really looked at mid-scale, upper mid-scale, upscale, and upper upscale in terms of who's really being affected in terms of demographic. And over the years, it's quite alarming to see the growth. I mean, 85% difference from 7.6 to 14.1. There's definitely a lot of growth with the OTAs. It's quite scary. They're hugely gaining market share. And it's difficult. What can we do? What are we supposed to do as independent hoteliers? Because between 2011-15, commissions have risen twice that of the actual revenue growth that we're experiencing independently. The alarming thing which I read too, and this was buried in a report somewhere, but this is the marketing figures for Booking.com for this first part of the year. So the first 3 months of this year, they increased their advertising spend by 25% to $981 million in 3 months. So that's their advertising budget for 3 months. I hate to think what it is for the next three and the next three. So it's, they do spend, Priceline, who's the parent company, they do spend, I've seen figures of $3.4 billion a year on advertising. And Google, one of the most powerful companies in the world, they're quite big in the travel space, and we're watching a lot of their technology quite closely at the moment, so stay tuned for that. And they won't encroach too far on their turf because they make too much money. There's $3.5 billion in revenue being earned out of AdWords and things like that from these OTAs. So it's interesting to see even Google are just playing it cool. Questions that, again, it's really just to, and we don't have to come up with the answers now, but and I can make this available to you people. I'm happy to share any of this information so that don't worry about having to write it all down. I'm sure Justin will hook me up with all your details, and that way I can give you this information so you can go through and ask yourself some of these questions, and I'll show you. I mean, some of the things for me which I'm really curious about is why are hotels actually spending 20% of their revenue on advertising? Because in my background of advertising and marketing, you never really spent more than 10 to 12%, and yet hotels are spending double that. Why? Why are hotels actually spending? The funny thing is, it's because if we look at, well, who's really making that decision? It's not us. It's the OTA companies doing that for us. They are just very cleverly getting us, they're taking more and more bookings, which means we are spending more and more money. So an interesting question I ask a lot of my clients, what commissions are you paying each year? And some of my clients don't actually know. And again, this is curious because I know Expedia have two different ways of processing the commissions. So one of them is where they'll disclose what commissions has been paid, and there's another one where you just get the end figure. So you have no idea how much commission they took out of the booking, you just get the end figure. I've only found that with one client who's actually aware of that, whereas I know that's what Expedia are doing. So they make it harder. They're very clever at hiding where the money's going. So it's another interesting stat that I've uncovered with a lot of our clients is looking at, well, I wonder how much that commission is actually increasing each year. So if you paid $50,000 this year, how much did you pay, the following year or the following year? So I've got some figures to share on that a bit later too. So they're good questions to start. Just put it down on where are you at now. What do you need to look at in your business now that's going to give you some information to move forward with a bit better? Because I know how tight marketing budgets are, and everybody wants their marketing dollars to work the best for them. You've got owners breathing down your neck. Because again, if the things that this is affecting is, it's at the end of the day, this process I see affecting. It's the end users, your guests. It's the guests of the hotel that are actually, getting a raw deal. It affects it in many ways because without having those extra funds, I'm noticing that there's more of a reluctance with owners to refurbish rooms or spend any more money because they are actually getting less money. So the owners are now unhappy and taking it out on the managers. So that's a raw deal for, how do you make your owners happy when you're actually giving them less money each month? And it's not your fault. It's the way the system's been rigged. So how do we, get back? And if the owners are getting less money, they're going to want to spend, they're not going to want to upgrade or spend any money on refurbishments of their rooms or technology or, pools or any of the other facilities that you might want to improve on or the ideas that you might want to inject into your business to make it unique and different. So that's making it harder for you to actually improve the guest experience. And we work with a lot of new hotels, so we're seeing what some of them are doing, and it's pretty amazing. Like when you inject fresh money and people have seen what's been done and then they take it up a notch, so we're seeing a lot of really cool ideas, and I'm happy to share a lot of those ideas with you. Some of them don't have to cost a lot more, but can make the world of difference for your guests. And of course, when you can connect and make that difference with your guests, that's when they're going to become loyal guests. You want to make sure that you've got they have booked direct and that you can keep that conversation and that connection with them, rather than have them go through booking.com and then get subject to all their media. A couple of things, well, I'll go on to, I love this quote by Winston Churchill.
We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we get.
That's right, we make a life by what we get, which is, it's really that sense of giving. And I think with the restriction of, people are making less money, people are getting more and more concerned with the money side of things, and they've lost the hospitality side of it. Where I'm seeing a transition from where we're becoming a travel industry rather than a hospitality industry again. Now, if you had to class the OTAs, they are in the travel business. They are just moving, they are selling beds. They're not really connecting directly with the people. They're in a travel business, like the airlines. They're transporting traveling people. Whereas as independent hotel owners, we're really in the hospitality, and it's about being of service. It's about, giving and meeting the needs of the guests. A couple of good ideas that our clients are doing. They do an enchantment surprise, which I think it's amazing. And I've stayed in hotels where they do that, and That particular one, they give you these little sweets at night on the pillow. It's a small touch, but you remember it. You notice it. If there's a restaurant nearby, that shot down there was actually one of the Novotels down in Coffs Harbour. Arrived. It was a long drive down there. It was 5:30 at night, and I was tired. And I walked into the room, and there's a lovely cheese platter and a bottle of wine. It was a simple gesture, but boy, that was like the best cheese plate and bottle of wine I ever had. So I really appreciate it, and I remember it. And that's what we want to do. We want to create memories, good memories for people. If you've got a restaurant, you can offer everything from drinks in the bar to there's lots of ways of. But again, that's going to require some sort of expenditure, and that's why we want to try and earn back some money through more direct bookings. I think I've covered everything there. Yep. So as I said earlier, I'd share some real numbers. So now those figures that I showed earlier, it said Asia Pacific was 70% of people are booking via OTAs. I'm not actually finding that the case with our clients. I'm actually seeing it more on average 30%. So I don't know where your figures are. That's something to perhaps go away with and look into for yourselves. How much are we reliant on OTAs, or how much business, how much in partnership are we with them, and how much money are we giving them? There's a couple of figures here I'll share. So Hotel A, $67,000 in commission in that year, which was up 37% on the year before. That's a huge increase in advertising if you think about it, to spend that much more. And then 97,000 paid out the following year, which is another 31% increase. Those are huge increases year on year. That was Hotel A. Hotel B, 38,000. It was up 48% on their previous year in terms of how much more money they are giving out in commissions. 51,000 up the following year, so that was not as bad, but still 25% increase. Like, wouldn't it be better to spend 25% increase on your advertising budget rather than just be giving it away? Hotel C was even higher, 83,000, up 27%. They are trying to manage it. But again, still up 123,000 for the following year. It's still a 33% increase. Hotel D didn't know the numbers. They just said, it's about 300,000 a year. They actually don't know. They didn't know what their specific numbers were. They don't know how much money they're giving away. And let alone year on year. And Hotel E, same thing. They said, it's over $1 million, 1.4 million, something like that. And it was like, wow, you're giving away that much money. You're paying, so pretty much you're just buying your bookings through the OTAs. And it's having that effect that it's affecting the guest. It's affecting you because the owners aren't happy. They're getting less money in their pocket. So it's having that run-on effect, which is really not helping things. And you have to ask yourself, where's that going to end up? Where are we going to be in a year's time or 2 years' time if that keeps on playing out? Are we that reliant on the OTAs? Are they that manipulative as a big media conglomerate? And they are manipulating people out there. So it is time to change that process and create some education and bring back some loyalty back into the individual hotels. So those were some ouch figures. So that's a little bit on Book Direct. The next area that I had a lot of questions in, and so do a lot of our clients, is social media. And it's social media is really the modern equivalent of television. It is now where the majority of people's attention is. Television is slipping down the ranks quite fast. And I know my two boys, they're 17 and 14, they don't watch TV at all. It's not even plugged into the aerial. They don't even go to the television. Everything is on their laptop or on their phone. That's where their attention is. So and to be honest, I'm quite a late adopter at social media just because I haven't seen it in the figures. My engineering background still likes to look at the numbers. Well, show me how it works and then I might do it. And when I do our benchmark reports every year, we're just about to do this year's benchmark report. So again, I share that out with everybody who wants a copy of that. I just go through patterns and trends that I'm seeing across all our hotels so that you can then benchmark yourself against that. Because it's one thing to compare yourself to yourself, but it becomes more important to be able to compare yourself against similar other properties, to give yourself a benchmark and look at, well, where are the areas we can improve, where are the areas that we're doing well, and what do we need to keep doing, what do we need to stop doing. So the benchmark report's quite handy for that. But from my point of view, I see that we only get, or our clients on average, 1.6% of their audience, their visitors, come from social media. And I'm thinking, well, you know, don't spend too much money in that area because it's not bringing in many leads. Whereas, you know, we use email marketing and things like that, and it brings in a ton of leads. So I've been a bit of a slow starter, a late starter on social media. And again, it was, even though I've loved my technology, I've stayed away from it. And it's, again, it's just the way I am. I still use a pencil at work. I take most of my notes with a pencil. I don't even use a pen. That's how old school I am. And it's in the days of when I worked in Sydney, we used to work on, we used to work for an advertising agency that used to do all the theatre shows in Sydney, and it then spread to Melbourne, Adelaide, Singapore. We used to get out and take the shows on the road with the producers, and I used to actually draw those phantoms, and Les Miserables was one of the other shows. Again, I used to draw all of that stuff by, you know, with my pencil, and then we would take, you know, bromide cameras, and I spent a summer in a darkroom learning how to use a bromide camera, which is pretty much like a big fancy black and white camera that you would use to take photographs of the press advertisements. And I would remember on a Friday afternoon, I'd be spending all day in this tiny little room, maybe the size of the front of this stage. There was no ventilation. I'd tape, because it had to be a dark room, I'd tape garbage bags to all the windows so it was dark, and you had nothing but a red light, so the lighting was quite dark, and you only had that red light to see. And there was the smell of the chemicals. I had to put the paper through different chemicals to get the image to come out. I forget all the different processes, but I remember the smell. I remember the smell of those chemicals and this room that was not ventilated. And in summer, it was hot, and I just couldn't wait to get out of there at about 4 o'clock. I had to get out of there by 4 o'clock because I had to get all my ads down to the newspaper, to the Sydney Morning Herald. And we'd have all the Phantom, Les Mis, whatever show was on, I'd have all the ads literally still dripping wet. But it was only about a 4 blocks away to get to the door of the Sydney Morning Herald. So I used to run down there. By the time I got there, the ads were dry. I would hand them in. And, you know, that was my Friday ordeal pretty much every week. And the thing I loved about it, which I reminded, was I'd seen the shows many times, and I'd met the producers, I'd spoken with the musicians who had written the scores, and I really got immersed in what they did. And I realised that as hard as my job was, it was still very satisfying to know that I had a small bitty part in helping thousands of people enjoy that show. And it was quite a spectacular show. I've seen it several times, and it's gone on to, you know, it's worldwide, and it's a huge, phenomenal success. I think it's still playing worldwide. It's incredible, the job they've done with it. So I've come from a traditional background, and social media for me, I've really not embraced. And so don't feel bad if you haven't quite got there yet. It's never too late to learn. And this year, I've really started to engage in it a lot more. I've gone, this is something that I'm curious about. I need to ask a lot more questions. I need to take, you know, some of my own medicine and start asking a lot more questions in areas I don't know anything about. So I've done exactly that. I've got a much younger crew at work, and they know so much about it. So it's actually quite easy for me to learn. I just need to go out and we sit and have a meeting and we learn things. But again, I'm just pouring myself into reading. I follow a lot of media celebrities. Gary Vaynerchuk, he's got a lot of stuff out there on social media, and it's interesting to see how quickly and how much the impact of social media has on us as people today. And the reason I bring it up is because in the old days, you'd have to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on branding to try and get your product out there into the marketplace. These days, you can use social media and it's free. So, but again, you ask the question, why aren't people using it as freely? And it comes down to people don't know how to use it, they don't know what context to use it in, and they don't know the best ways of getting or the relevance of it and being able to track it, look at the stats. Where does it fit in? Again, it comes back into, where does it fit into your vision? Where does it fit into your bigger picture of what you're doing with your business? And when you can create a bit more meaning with those for something like that, then it gives it more. You'll have more energy to put into it. We are definitely seeing. I've got some stats to share here, but we are seeing one of our clients up in Noosa. We've been engaging in influencer marketing, so that's something to get into. I won't get into it now, but it's working pretty well. You'll see that top graph is just gives you a bit of an indication of the type of money being spent in social media, digital advertising. So it's roughly increasing $1 billion a year. So it's just gaining in momentum in terms of where advertising dollars are getting spent. And these bottom two graphs here, this is over January through to April. And we didn't do any other marketing activity. We had no email newsletters, nothing else happening. And yet we were noticing these spikes going, what is that? What is going on here? And we found out from our client that they had engaged a PR agency in Brisbane, and immediately started asking questions of them. What have you done? What are you doing? And now we're working and collaborating together on everything that they have done as to why it's working, how it's working, and it's a combination of doing competitions and influencer marketing. So it's getting great traction on the website. These figures down, that's the social media, and these are the actual figures coming through in terms of visitors. So it's tracking really well into the site overall, and we're getting 65% increase of traffic coming in from social media. So, I mean, who would like 65% more traffic coming into their website? That's, for me, is the real golden ticket, because it's the number one thing, and one of the biggest things we focus on with our clients. It's getting more traffic into your website. And yes, that's part of search engine optimization. Again, that's a whole nother discussion we can have if you guys want to know more about that. But in terms of getting visitors into your website, this is a proven way that is, we're getting astounding results with some of our clients. So that's something to consider. If you have written social media off or you don't understand how it works, just start asking a few questions around it. Open your mind up to maybe there's a possibility that you can get it to work for you. Because we're certainly seeing some promising figures, and we're going to go full on into that this year. We're already doing and seeing some great results. The interesting thing to see just from our point of view is video is huge. That seems to be the most popular medium that people like to follow. So if you've got some video footage, and you can take it on your phone and put it up on Facebook, those posts seem to get more views and likes than anything else. So if you're just using Facebook to put a bit of text up there, again, we're all busy and we all love pretty pictures and moving pictures. So if you just follow the trends, that's what we're seeing. People are much more engaged with definitely images. But video is by far king. It's definitely winning out in terms of most popular mediums. And video production and getting video these days is so much easier. So ask them questions around that. If you haven't got any video, what could you possibly do? And please, I'm open to, I've got cards at the front and the back. If you've got any questions to do with any of this stuff, I love questions. There's no silly questions. There's no dumb questions. They're all good questions. So that way you can, I've got this, I've got that. What could I do with that? I'm open to helping you guys, do something with it. This was, I didn't know what Snapchat was, and did this last weekend, and I still don't know what it's for, but you can do all this on it. So I'm not sure. My kids love it. They're on it all the time. I'm still working on that. But that's 3 to 7 hours is what people are spending a day on their phones. So that's where people's attention is going. I am seeing a lot of rumours about VR, virtual reality. Again, until the market is ready to spend 3 hours a day with goggles on, it's not going to get there. But it will come. It will come. So I just love looking at all that technology. But again, it's very early in the market. We want to make sure if you're going to put some time and energy into anything, let's put it where people's attention is heavily, and then let's see if we can capitalize on that. So you might be asking which social media, because there are a lot. There's about 7 different ones that work incredibly well. Just in a quick nutshell, Facebook is really that discovery platform where people have everyday conversations, and I like to think about it in terms of documenting. You're not there to sell, special offer. It's really about documenting what's going on in your area, what you're doing, and keeping it interesting, getting people engaged. So especially when it comes to with independent properties, what most guests come back to or relate to is the owners and how their personality. So you might love coffee, which one of my clients does, and he makes sure that every guest who comes in, he makes them, their special cup of coffee, and if he shared how much he loves coffee on his social media, it would draw a whole nother crowd to it. There's also, I've got a client who's recently just traded in his racing bike for a mountain bike, and that's, again, there's a whole market for people that ride mountain bikes. So even if it was a photograph of you out cycling and you see, where do you put that on your website? It's the wrong context. That's not what you put on your website. And yet you can put that on social media, so that's just blending a bit of your personality with your audience. And then you might get a couple of other people come in who also like to mountain bike. So it's more of that documenting and sharing a bit more of yourselves through Facebook. Instagram is more of a place of inspiration. So, and we use it at work. One of the guys at work have said, well, where can we have some fun? How do we show off what we do in our agency every day? So they've chosen Instagram to be that platform. So we can take photos of the dog running around and, people drinking green smoothies and having coffees and just, brainstorming together and all the fun things that go on in our office. They're using that on Instagram. So, and yet it doesn't feel like it's an appropriate place to put it on our website, because you want to try and have a sort of a corporate image and look. But if you do want to find out what goes on with this crazy bunch at Pebble Design, you can jump on Instagram and see all the pictures of what we get up to during the day. So we're using it as a channel for a bit of self-expression and fun. LinkedIn, again, very powerful with your corporate market. Almost every corporate person in the market is in that platform, and again, it's the most expensive form of digital advertising at the moment. The reason being, it works incredibly well, and it's very targeted in front of business owners. So if you have a corporate space or you want to attract that corporate market, well worth putting some information in there. You certainly don't have to do paid ads. You can just get your own profile up there. You can start to appeal to corporate people with the facilities you've got and start to share your corporate views on what's happening in the world, and start to connect with people in that nature. So those are probably the 3. I'll show you, this is an interesting graph I found. Facebook is definitely the one. So if you're wondering, well, where do I go? Facebook is clearly the one that everyone's using, and 61% of the audience, 2 billion members. So that's a biggie. Instagram, 600 million users. Twitter, 319 million. Twitter's more for, you can now put images up there. So again, it's more very short amounts of information. So if you do want to put short bits of information, Twitter is a good spot for that, and the odd picture. But again, it's, how fractured do you want to get? YouTube, definitely a good place for uploading your video. So all this video that you're taking, you don't have to just deposit it on Facebook. Create your own YouTube playlist, because YouTube has a huge audience, 1.3 billion, and there's 30 million views a day happening on YouTube. So that's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of attention in these areas. So hopefully I've opened up that as a big question. Should I be using some form of social media, and which one will appeal to what I want to do? It's get involved. What have you got to lose? I was actually in a meeting yesterday morning with one of my clients, and they've been doing this for 8 years. When they first got into the business, they knew nothing about it. and she's on Facebook a few times a week now, and she gets so excited when she gets a couple of hundred likes of a post that she put up. So it's you can make it fun. It's interesting to see how and what guests will interact with and connect with. So it gives you that opportunity to see what posts are interesting, and out of the most interesting posts you can then go on to publish those or do a paid post and distribute those much further into that 2 billion audience. With Facebook too, it has incredibly powerful demographic statistics that when you do a paid post, you can segment and target your list incredibly well. So you could say if you're up in Coolum and you wanted to target the Brisbane drive market, or if you're on the Gold Coast, you want to target that drive market, you can set your demographic to reach out to that area. So that's a little bit on social media. Hopefully I've encouraged you to have a few questions about that for yourselves. And the last area is, and again, I talk with a lot of clients, and I've actually had a lot of clients. We've done and sold several businesses together. So they'll start with a business, it'll be run down, they'll fix it up at a property level, we'll rebrand it, we'll do the whole marketing platform for them, we'll get their numbers working well for them, and they'll go on to sell the business. Because again, they're quite structured in their approach, and anybody really does buy a business to eventually sell the business. Yes, you can make some good money along the way. So it's then it comes back to your vision. What is your vision? How long are you going to, what is your plan? So what is the plan for your business? And I heard a really fascinating chat with Dan Sullivan, who's from television days in the States. He is a business coach. He coaches very high-level people. He works, and it was a talk done at a group called the Genius Network. They have to pay $25,000 to attend these courses, and they thought it was so good that they wanted to share it out to a larger audience, which I'm grateful they did. Because he had some really interesting information to talk about. And I've just, without having to listen to a whole 1 hour chat with Dan Sullivan, which is well worth doing, I thought I'd just kind of condense it into what's relevant for us in the hotel world. And the key aspect of it was, and he said it's actually easier to 10 times the results you're achieving than it is to just double the results you're achieving. And it's like, wow, that doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even compute in my brain. And then when he explained the model, it actually makes a lot of sense, because when we try and double our efforts, if we're trying to double the results that we're trying to achieve, what we'll do is look at what we've done in the past. So we will draw back on, it's on that side, we'll draw back on our past to go, okay, well, what have we done that we could do a little bit better? We can maybe cut some savings there, and we can, yes, I think we maybe be able to, double our results. So you're very much left with going back into your past to try and improve on what you've done. Whereas if I ask you, how can you do 10 times better? There's no way that you can draw on your past experiences. It's just, you're not going to find the answer with what you've done in your past to 10 times in your results in the future. So what it forces us to do, and I love the science behind how us as a body works, because when we go into the past, we're very much drawing on our more primal instincts, our survival mechanism, which is our limbic brain. It's that midbrain that is really our survival mechanism that keeps us, it's always looking out for danger and warnings. And when we're coming from our limbic brain, it's a limited resource. It's really about a need to survive. It's not accessing any real creative aspects. It's very much just plain survival. Whereas when we start to put ourselves into in our prefrontal cortex, which is the front part of our brain, how do we get there? It's allowing ourselves to open up to new possibilities, and the scientists have measured people's brains and gone through the different states, and it's the front parts of our brain that really light up when we're having those creative ideas. And you probably find you don't have those creative ideas sitting at your desk. You probably get those really great ideas when you're out having a walk in the morning, or you're getting your morning coffee, or you're doing something where not related to what you're not consciously focused on it, you're just doing something that's more enjoyable. That's when you get these ideas, these inspirations pop into your head. That's when you're accessing your prefrontal cortex. These are where you get your ideas to 10 times your business. So the whole, it's more of a mindset that he was talking about. So if you can put yourself or ask yourself that question, it's a powerful question. How can I 10 times the results I'm achieving, as opposed to just double the results I'm achieving? Because if you're just doubling, you're drawing on that past experience. There's no need to access the real creative aspects of your brain. So it's really asking that question is what's going to allow you to go further into it. How does this relate to hotels? Again, through discussions with a lot of our clients, I've gone through 7 key areas of the hotel industry, and I mean I could do a talk on each one of these areas if you want to. I won't today. And it starts with the owners. At the end of the day, we really want to improve our owners' happiness by 10 times. How could we do that? How can we increase the happiness of our owners 10 times? It's looking at these things, and I've got another version of this, which actually starts to go through a whole systematic approach to, well, have we done this? Have we done that? Can we do that? Can we do this? So again, if we can improve the profit, our owners are definitely going to be happier, and we're going to not have, we're going to have a much better day ourselves, which brings us into how do we increase the manager's profit? Because if we can increase the owner's profit, well, then we've increased the manager's profit as well. Plus, we don't have the headache of the owners unnecessarily saying, well, what's happening and why is it going down? And so there's in terms of, for our managers, it's not just increasing your happiness, it's really about what other profit streams are there. And I see a lot of these things done in a lot of our hotels. There's probably at least 10 other profit streams that you could introduce into your business. And I know a lot of you have probably already got those. And it's like the McDonald's formula. You never just buy a burger. It's would you like fries and a shake with that? So you've got customers staying in your properties already. What else can we be of service to them to help them have a better stay? And it's being able to provide more products and services, not just to make money, but to actually make their lives a bit better. And there's lots of different things that we can do, because I see it in a lot of the hotels that we work with. I see how much these extra things they offer and how well they work. The third aspect is really looking at the numbers. I love numbers from my engineering background, and it's looking at, some of our clients do this very carefully and meticulously. They are forecasting when are the highs, when are the lows. They're looking at their occupancy. They're releasing inventory at set times. They're really watching their numbers as a set key of metrics, and they can pull different levers at different times of the year so that they are on top of that. So it's, again, just making sure that we've got all of those processes in place, because we don't want to miss any opportunities. There's lots of opportunities, whether you're on the GDS network and different OTA channels, or because you get good market exposure through the OTA channels. But again, it's about managing those so that you're not losing bookings to them. You want to, there's a healthy amount of bookings you do want to put through the OTAs, but again, you really want to drive that billboard effect so that they are coming back into your side. So there's lots of strategies that we can put in place in terms of improving the numbers and 10 timesing the opportunities for growing the business. At an in-house level, this is really comes back to your culture, the culture within the organisation. And I was recently in one of our properties, and I could sense there was a bit of conflict between some of the people working there, and that energetically rubs off on the guests. And I mean, I walked into the building and I picked up on that just within 5 minutes. And that wasn't even a busy period. You don't want that to be happening because that energy rubs off on clients, and it's like, oh, I don't know if I'll stay there again. And it's really important to have a really good connected culture in the business where everybody's on the same page, and especially engaged in helping build your database. Which is really building the connections with the guests. We have several hotels that have got special procedures in place to make sure that they are getting people's email addresses, and there's lots of different stages that we can put in place to help you with that. The third aspect, which is fairly recent, of the last 2 years, is definitely having a book direct strategy. So that is a clear direction. I mean, the big hotel chains have been pushing hard the last 2 years. They've got very strong policies. They spend a lot of money on advertising. So having a clear book direct strategy is super important. And I'd have to say, a majority of small boutique hotels I see, they don't have anything in place. You can't. There's still a complete misconception that I'm going to get a better offer when I ring you direct, or if I book on your website direct. That's just what I see as a web developer. The second area is really extending or expanding on that digital connection. So this can come into play in terms of, are you using your email database? Are you sending out regular emails, connecting with your past guests? Are you using other digital media? AdWords, very successful for a lot of our clients, in conjunction with Facebook ads, or even just having a good social media strategy in place, having those things where you are connecting with people digitally. Who are you? What do you do? What are you offering? And the key thing to remember with social media too, there's a book which I've been reading. It's called Jab, 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 Right Hook. And it's all about social media. And I listened to an interview about it, and they said, why do you call it that? And he said, well, it's the thesis of the book is really about give, ask. And too many people on social media are just going in there, they're diving in there and going ask. And there's been no giving along the way. And that just puts people off, and they disengage. So it's again, some important questions to look at there. Well, what could we do in terms of our strategy, or what could we give out to people that is going to be, interesting and beneficial? I share one of the stories. I was looking through some stats, and one of our clients in Brisbane, I was looking through their blog articles, because I was like, this page gets an awful lot of visitors. And I thought, wow, I have to go and look what that page was all about. And sure enough, it was a chocolate tour of the city. It's the most viewed blog article on their entire website for the entire year. And I went, wow, who would have thought that chocolate was such a big deal? And they didn't think that. They just put this out as a bit of like, oh, well, I don't know what else to say, but let's talk about chocolate. And so it's interesting, when you do connect digitally with people, you can start to monitor where are people's interests. And I think that even went virally and started to get shared on other tourism websites. And so you just don't know which post you put out there, or which bit of information is going to connect with other people. So it really is to keep that digital connection real and authentic. And the nice thing about it is we can get lots of statistics back from social media. And the last but not least is websites. Clearly, having a good website helps, because the thing that we see, if you're going to book on booking.com or you're going to book direct, now if your website looks worse than booking.com, I think it's just easier just to book on booking.com. Whereas the benefit you have with your own website is you can make it look so much better, especially when you start to include big images and video and actual guest testimonials. You can show pricing, you can do unique specials, you can explain to them that when you book direct, you get free parking and free breakfast and free Wi-Fi, and you can really start to engage a lot more with your audience when they jump on your website. Whereas on the OTA websites, it's just a level playing field. Everybody looks the same, whether you're 5-star, 3-star, 4-star, everybody just looks the same. So that's a huge advantage. And that also lends itself a little bid into the digital side, because guess what? Booking.com spend a minimum of $300 on every single hotel. They bid money on every single hotel, about $300 a day. And they don't have the time to get involved in social media for every single hotel. So it's one thing that the OTAs are not really connecting with. They can't do individualized content at a social media level, and yet that's where people's attention is at. So that's something that we can definitely make a big dent in if we start to embrace it more, because that is an area that they can't touch. And you can share genuine, authentic, real stories about what's happening in your hotel that people will connect with, and then again, it's social media is not something where you get instant sales from, like AdWords. It's more about building your brand, telling your story, and connecting with people long term, and you will reap the results longer term, which is what we're seeing with some of our clients that we've put Instagram feeds on their websites, and they've gone from getting 10 likes to up in the hundreds of likes now. They've got photos coming in, so they are growing their following, and people love it when they can take a photo and it ends up on a nice website. They go, wow, that's my photo, and then guess what? They go and tell all their friends about it. Oh, go and have a look, my photo's on the front page, and then it spreads. So there's lots of opportunities. There's a lot of hope there. For us as independent hoteliers, it's not all lost. That concludes my this workshop. I'm happy to answer any questions if you guys have got any. Again, I've also got my cards here, and happy to be in touch. And if you think of questions later on, please feel free to send them through. Thank you.
I've been up there busy scribbling notes, and I thought I could raise some of those points now. It might get the conversation going. I'll never forget one of the very first clients I was involved with, changing over from competitive software and Essentials Surfers Paradise, Holiday North, since bulldozed for the tram. Don't know if any of you know where that actually used to be. The reason I remember that building was two things. It was nearly 16 years ago, where I remember the manager's check-in procedure. I learned a lot from that. There's very few managers that actually have a check-in procedure, and there's a reason why I want to talk about that. And I also remember that 70% of her bookings came from Ansett. She just bought the building. And some of the information that Brendan's presented today, I thought, is it actually all that different? Is the environment that we're in right now actually all that different to how it was back when I was implementing EasyRes at Holiday North all those years ago? And then what happened? Okay, well, we had our websites come along, as Brendan described. Then we had What If came along that changed the landscape massively. And at 10% really did tip the favour back into the manager. Really at 10%. Pretty good value.
What was Ansett?
25 to 30.
25 to 30%.
More like on the 30 side.
Wow.
And not only that, those travel agents, they were contracted, if you remember. It was a contracted allotment. You had to give them a set amount of your stock with often a 7 to 14 day release back period. Okay? Whereas the OTAs, it's just if it books, it books. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So the note I made was that back then the travel agents controlled the channel. They were in control of the channel. And then we had the onset of the internet and technology that changed who was in control of the channel. Okay? And then the OTA started buying up each other, and that's going to continue. There's too much money in it, and they control the channel. But the point is that we've come out of probably a 10-year period now. It's fair to say we're out of that period now, and we're back in the normal cycle of big players controlling the channel. But even back in the Ansett days, even back in those days, there were things that managers were able to do to encourage the guests to book direct. And so although the technology and the way that people find you has changed, we're not in all that different a world. And I thought that was quite a relevant point. So it's a new normal. I hope that everyone leaves today thinking about where are you spending your advertising dollars. I remember that Holiday North used to do quarter-page ads in the Financial Review and the Melbourne Age. They got so many bookings from it. It's crazy. But there's new ways where you can advertise. Some of them which cost, but some of them don't need to either. But the note I made under that is, more importantly, where are you spending your time? Because, as Brendan's pointed out, some of the things you're able to do that are really effective, they actually don't cost any money, but they do cost time. One of the points that Brendan made just recently was about the direct booking strategy. And the note I quickly jostled down was, do you and your staff fully understand your direct booking strategy? Is the rest of your team crystal on what the direct booking strategy is for your business? Because it's not one big thing that's a direct booking strategy, it's a whole bunch of little things. I just noted down, Brandon was talking about Instagram. And I remember seeing something on a documentary recently about what it means when people get likes on social media. So I quickly jotted down, well, coming back to the check-in procedure that impressed me so much so many years ago, what's your check-in procedure? And does it involve things that are linked to your direct booking strategy? And there was just a couple of little things I wrote down straight away that probably should. For example, what's your real email address? If 70% of the bookings are coming in from OTAs, your check-in strategy, direct booking strategy should include that you're always collecting the person's real email address. For those of you that have upgraded to RL Master, those tasks are automatic. Also, where people like to be liked, should there be something in reception where they're taking a photo of themselves checking in, something that's interesting, that they instantly post to their social media, that their friends see and like, and then you've got your guests on the marketing payroll.
It's interesting, just on that point, I've noticed there's a hotel in Sydney that it's an Instagram hotel. They've branded it that way. All the artworks are Instagram photos that their clients have taken so all throughout the hotel. And they have Instagram corners where you can sit and take selfies, and they're just these cool spots and I'm sure amongst all of the resorts and stuff here, there would be some great little spots to set up a little area that people could take that special selfie photo and then get it out there.
So we had, lucky enough, went to the snow a couple of years ago, and the Falls Creek Hotel Management launched a Facebook campaign, and you had to take a photo with yourself and someone else at the beginning of every ski run with the sign of a ski run behind you, and if you did, you got 50% of your lift pass refund or something like this. I forget what it was. Anyway, my friends, social media junkies, and the weather was disgusting, but they went out and they made sure that they got that done. But the impact of that was all of their friends who were also social media junkies liked all their photos, and it grew exponentially. So that was really interesting. I've got a calendar at home. It's from a local travel agent, and it's all the places you can go around the world. But all photos in the calendar were taken by their clients, so it was very personalised, and that relates straight back to this Instagram one.
We've even done, some of our clients they're quite active on social media. We've built a social media gallery. So without leaving, because this is the one thing that I thought, well, how can we get people really engaged in a hotel's social media but not lose the traffic? Because once somebody does go out into a social media platform, you kind of lose them. They're going to get caught up in what their friends are doing. And so by putting a social media gallery within your website, you can actually have all your feeds come directly in, and it's all viewed within the website, so they can still book and see everything all in one spot. So that's something that's working quite well, which we've been experimenting with quite a few clients now. So that's, yeah.
So then I had a bit of a balance comment here, in that some of the figures that were presented were about what hotels were spending on marketing. And in our industry, it's a totally unfair comparison, because we don't get to keep 100% of our revenue. We've got to then take a percentage of that revenue and rightfully give it to our owners. We've got to take a percentage and pay ourselves and our staff, and we've got a small percentage that gets allocated to marketing. Much, much, much less than the hotels have available to spend. And not only that, because of that overall take, we can't afford to generally employ a specialised marketing person in our building. You know, we're servicing the lifts, we're clipping the hedges, we're doing the bookings, we're doing the cleans when the cleaners don't turn up. You know, this is the reality of the industry that we're living in. So what I'm seeing is the rise of the outsourced marketing manager. Okay. Anyone here do their annual tax returns for the business? No? Okay. And the reason I raise that point is that taxation and accounting can be complicated, and the same's happening. There's a lot of information today, and we've barely skimmed the surface. And so I'm seeing the rise of a specialised marketing consultant who knows how to implement some of these things. The other point that I make out of that is in 2014, the Property Agents and Motor Dealers Act was thrown out the window and replaced with the Property Occupations Act and the Agents Financial Administration Act and corresponding regulations. And I think it allows us to be more creative about where our revenue sources are coming from and our relationship with our owners. And we've come out of a period of good 10 years where the ability to attract direct revenue was easier than it was back when ANZ and others controlled the channel. But that's well and truly over. And so I think it's worthwhile, if you've inherited a whole bunch of agreements with your owners, are they still right in this age? Are you able to even compete with your competitors based on the advertising spend that you've got? And are your agreements going to allow you to do what you need to do? So I think that needs to be part of this conversation as well. Brendan, I really like that you talked about statistics, and I really liked how we had some graphs, and it's like, oh yeah, I saw that this was happening, all this traffic started coming through on our client's website, and I wondered how that was happening. And then so we investigated this and we found out that there was a PR company. Wow, do you guys know your page statistics? Do you even know where to find them? Do you know how fast it loads? And did you know that Google cares about that? And do you have an idea of how much Google likes your page or not? And my favourite saying of the website, sorry, Brendan might hate this, an ugly website that works is better than a pretty one that doesn't. If you've got a website that's a couple of years old, it's ancient, 4 years old, it's dinosaur, and even if someone really good made it, it's still dinosaur. It will load too slow, it'll be targeted the wrong way for social media and for how Google wants to rank you. So there are a few of my managers that actually know their page statistics and information. And I thought it was really great that Brendan was able to say, oh yeah, we've got access to that, we know where that is. And that can be part of the direct booking strategy as well.
And I'm happy to offer everyone here, if you are interested in that side of things and you're not clear, as I said, we are about to do this year's benchmark report. I'd be happy to do a free benchmark report for all of you. So just be sure, if you do want to know that information, I'm happy to help you with that, because it's what makes our business more fun, and it does give us a direction and hope when we can see what is working and what is not working. And in my early advertising days, we used to spend thousands of dollars on marketing research. You'd go to a research company and you'd have these closed focus groups and you'd try and understand what the customer or the consumer is thinking about. And it cost thousands of dollars. Only our bigger clients ever did that. Whereas today, we don't have to do any of that. We've got tons of data. We can go through your guest reviews and quickly do an assessment. What is the most remarkable, so what's the most remarked comments that are coming through? If we take a cross-section of 1,000 guest reviews, we can look at your statistics and look at it over a 12-month period, and we can compare that to the previous 12 months if your data goes that far. A lot of our clients does. So you can really start to see very interesting trends and patterns, and then start asking some more important questions. Where do I want to go with this? If I'm seeing this is where I am now, where can I go in the future with that? Just having the information, it's all there, and I'd be willing to help you guys find that if you're not clear on it. So.
That's really great. The last point that I had was, as part of the Book Direct strategy, there was a focus on how does the guest feel. And of course we all know we're selling an experience, not a bed. Some of you might be deliberately selling a bed. Saw a documentary on a motel in Britain. They were selling a bed. And they were very clear on what they were selling. They were selling a bed. But most of you aren't. Most of you are selling an experience. So we do have a range of businesses here. We've got some really massive businesses here, and we've got some really small businesses here today. And once we put this on YouTube, who knows going to see it? Not everyone can afford a beautiful cheese platter and a bottle of wine for their direct guests. Nor can we afford the time necessarily. If you can, we can see firsthand the impact that can make. But there's plenty of things that technology can do that can make your guests feel good about booking direct. As simple as an automatic SMS that can go out of RL Master post check-in. Thanks for booking direct. I hope you're enjoying your room. Please come and see me. You're a VIP client because you booked direct. And there are plenty of other little examples that don't need to be time expensive or dollars expensive that can nonetheless be done.
That's a really important distinction, because you can automate a lot of that digital connection with your guests, which is great through pre and post arrival emails, where you're making sure that you keep that contact with your guest. This is what the OTA companies do very aggressively. They send a lot of emails out. And you can automate that so that you can pretty much set it up, do it once, and then have it run continually over the year. I didn't say forget about it. Let's check it every 3 months, because again, there's some great data behind email marketing. You can go into your stats and see we have very high open rates, up to 75% of emails that go out pre-stay and post-stay. And we have very high click-through rates of about 40 to 50% click-through rates. It's incredibly high, because the average open rate for one of our newsletters is around, the open rate is 35% and the click-through rate's around 15%. So those are your normal, open rate and click-through rate. So to get 70 in those figures is really, the guests like it. So it's good to, and yeah, I believe you can do that you've built that into REI Master as well.
Yeah. So, and then the final point that I had actually here was getting your owners, guests and suppliers on the marketing payroll. So anyone done any kind of major refurb, painted the building lately, fixed up the barbecue area, resurfaced the tennis court, anything along those lines? That's a social media opportunity. All of those businesses will be embracing social media as well. If you can get something that's posted to your social media page and your web page to show your customers the improvements that's being made at your building. Get your suppliers to like what's going on as well. It can be exponential. And how many of you are really engaged or aware of your owners and the social media presence of your owners as well? Because all of your owners have a massive vested interest in the promotion of your building and the brand of your building. And if you can get your owners, some of which will be very wealthy people, some of which who will have a large social media following, if you can get them liking what you're doing, that's all just free marketing as well. So they were some of my points. Happy to throw over for any questions. I'm also aware that people are time poor, and if you have to leave, I totally understand. And also understand that some people are shy. So that's fine too. We can hang around out there.
That's what email's for too.
So did we have any questions that we might have wanted to ask as a group?
It's good to hear that you're talking about the impact of these booking.com and these sort of guys, ATOs, I think you call them, is it?
Yeah, online travel agents.
Online travel agents. Because they are just about grabbing the money. They take their commission off the top and they take a big chunk of it, 15 to 18%. And they seem to be working along with the big organisations, the big hoteliers, to put the small guys out of commission. They have they talk all the time about being partners, and we get these lovely letters about how important you are to us, your partner, and all this, and there's no, they don't assess their clients at all. We cop whatever comes, and then we get a lot of these people that try to do things within the apartment to try and get an upgrade and things like that. We were forever getting these people. Booking.com's notorious. You got to take your deposit, and there's no money in the there's no money in their credit cards for the booking fee, and then one day out, 2 days out, people don't turn up on the day. They're looking around for a cheaper apartment or something like that. And they book a number of apartments. There's no protection for us guys, and whenever we say anything about it, that's your issue, something to do with us.
So this came up in our recent seminar with Kim and Varia. Did anyone else attend that seminar? And they put it into 3 categories: OTA, friend, enemy, frenemy. I hadn't heard that before. And I quite like the frenemy, because at $99 billion a year, compared to, as no disrespect to your size of your business and what you're doing, like this to this, it's not going to change. So there's an aspect of inevitability, but there's also, as we've seen today, there are things that you can do about it. You're not going to get 100% direct bookings. It's not going to happen. Having said that, in the end, who's in control of the inventory? You are. You're in control of the inventory. You're in control of where that is sold. It's your product that's being sold. I am staying in Brisbane in a couple of weekends time. I've got a 40th birthday. It's going to be a big event. No kids. Awesome. And on the hotel's direct website, there was about 4 different options to book per room. Okay? And it was really confusing. Really confusing. I followed the book direct through, and at the final payment section, there was no payment button. It didn't work. It wasn't much after hours. I rang the manager from a large chain. Certainly none of my managers would ever do this. She wouldn't take my booking. She would not take my booking. She said, I suppose I could go downstairs and I would just be using the same technology that you're using. And I said, but I've rung you because it's not working. Anyway, so she didn't care. By comparison, on Booking.com, it was crystal clear. It was crystal clear, and it worked straight away. Now, that hotel has to take responsibility for their own actions. That they are costing themselves that revenue. The guy on the ABC Finance, I watched ABC News every now and then, talked about wages and wage growth last night. And he said, why hasn't it? Technology. And so the hotels are down-staffed as well. You know, so they're facing some of the same challenges that you are. So if we take the enemy side of the equation for the OTAs, you're going to be up against it. There's no two ways about it. You might have such a niche that you don't need to be with the OTAs. So that will be rare. You might take the friend side, and a lot of the very traditional Airbnbs that really are renting out a room or a house or something like that. A lot of them are refusing to take bookings from any other source than Airbnb. They're insured, they can tell who the guests are. There's a lot of reasons why there's a benefit there. And so some of those people have very much taken their my friend side of things, even though there's the commission that's being deducted. But I really do think it's part of the balance. For most of our buildings, it's about the balance. How do you manage where the bookings are coming from and what the guests are able to book and not able to book? So parking might be something that's well and truly advertised on your website very prominently, okay? And most of you have got included free parking, yes? Does that need to be as prominent on the OTAs? Is that a reason why they're going to book direct with you because free parking is everywhere and advertised? Is there special terms and conditions that are only available on your Book Direct website that are different to the terms and conditions on the OTA website? And in certain circumstances, should all inventory be available on the OTAs anyway? And that can be very appropriate at points of key demand. Long weekends, we've got the Commonwealth Games coming up, and all of those kind of things. So it's different for every business. But I do think if you've got a strong Book Direct strategy, if your staff understand that Book Direct strategy, and if you're learning, as you are here today, all the different ways that can be implemented through technology, there can be a balance. But the same feedback it's like on repeat about the travel agents of old and their power. And this particular lady was contracting with NZ, very upset with the demands of the inventory that they were placing on her. I don't want to give up 60% of my revenue, but unless I give of my allotments, but if I don't, they're going to contract with the building next door, and it was a lot more aggressive actually in my view. So it's a new normal, I think. But sorry, you were going to raise something up there.
I think sometimes with OTAs we could look at it as a positive because of the fact that they're a marketing tool for us. So if we get a guest from an OTA, maybe we only have that guest once and they come back as a repeat on a direct booking because we're offering them something. When somebody comes to the desk, if they're booked through an OTA, I always ask them why they did that. And is the reason that I can obviously change and they'll come back direct. And normally it's, we can offer you a discount regardless of what it is. You pay them for being sense. So
yes, but you're telling them. This is great.
That's part of your strategy.
Everyone is.
Everyone who comes to the desk books for an OTA, I question.
So we should be saying, welcome. Why? How do I contact you direct? Please check in on Facebook. Please take a photo on your balcony and like it on your Facebook. If you do, then this will happen. And follow them up afterwards.
Because we're always tested, we can't get rid of it. So
It's
and that's
really
that one point of difference. This is when
Yeah.
the control shifts, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
they're physically in front of you.
yeah.
And it's a real phenomenon. SiteMinder have clearly come out and said that the billboard effect of the online travel agencies is huge. And there's definitely a lot to be gained for us to get bookings via that channel. So it's not that we're ever against OTAs, it's about asking some questions around how can we manage that to our advantage. Because really, don't just sit back and because I'm seeing what's happening, and the whole idea for me is I just want to encourage everyone to ask more questions around and look at what is happening in my business. How is this affecting me? Exactly what sort of money are we talking about? And how can we use this in our advantage? It's not about a witch hunt for the OTAs. They play a necessary part of the economy for sure, and they are a fantastic medium for attracting international guests, for instance. That's if you were to look at your international guest strategy, and it's a very expensive market to try and get into, but they fulfill that market beautifully. So make sure you've got inventory there. But again, it all comes down to how can we best manage that? What allotments can we give them at what times of the year? So it comes back to that formula I was discussing. I've actually got that in a PDF document, so if anybody's wanting to, there's a second page which goes into some checklists. So I'm happy to share that with all of you once I've got your details, and you can go through that yourself. It's just asking those questions and using it to your advantage.
So in those slides, there's a lot of information, right? And we all know that we're time poor. So I find that the best strategy is find the most appealing for you. What do you think is the most appealing and will be the most effective for you? Choose one thing and get that one thing happening and get it right and working. And get it automated and get it part of just the way that you do things. And then come back to it and say, right, I've got that under control now. I'm that much better than I was. And choose the next thing. Because if you say, well, look, I'm a bit lost with my direct booking strategy, and then think that everything has to be done all at once, that's where it can be overwhelming when, the generator needs to be tested, the lifts just die, someone just threw up in reception. When life happens.
Generally, I'd like to thank you because I feel a whole lot better now. We've been in this current context 4 weeks, probably 4 disastrous weeks. And I've been saying to people, can you point me to a marketing guru? I've asked your reception, I need a marketing guru because it's bigger than me. What needs to be done?
But that's okay if it is, isn't it? It's okay if it is.
It's okay.
Yeah. You don't do your own legal, you don't do your own accounting.
I just need to find somebody who can come and do it and
You're not alone, and it is about us as independent, small hoteliers, banding together, sharing information, knowledge, and the reality is there is stuff happening out there, but the most important thing that I try and help my clients with is it is up to us, and why I do the part on our vision is because it's up to us to run our own race. And yes, there's going to be stuff happening out there in the world. I mean, a lot of the other talk, if you follow the news and stuff, there's a lot of talk around, we've had, 7, 8 good years, and, it's supposed to be cyclical where things go up and down. And there's talk about, well, when's the market going to go down? Because that's kind of the next big topic. But if we based your everyday on what's happening out there, you lose focus with what your actual business is doing. And I love what Justin just said there. It's a philosophy called Kaizen, which is if you can do one thing each day to improve what you did yesterday, you are going to be on a path to success. That is really, it is a journey, and it is not an overnight occurrence. But for me, it comes back to asking that question. And I do this, to be honest, I do this first thing in the morning. I have a bit of a process I go through, and I ask myself, what are the 5 things that I can do today that are going to make the most impact? And I do those things first up in the day as best of my ability, because I'm not quite as sophisticated firefighters as you guys. You're in the heavy duty front row firefighting. I just, with my office, I go in the morning. Yes, there's some things, urgent things to deal with straight up, but I try and block out that little bit of time, even if it's just half an hour, and assess what 5 things can I focus on today that are going to improve us for tomorrow. And then tomorrow I can make the same decision. So just keep it simple. Don't get too. Again, it's that process. If we get too caught up with too far into the future, it seems hopeless. Whereas it's really about having a vision, knowing that you're doing a little step each day in that path, and you will succeed. You will make a difference.
So I asked Brendan what he wanted you guys to walk away with today, and the word he said was hope. And I think that there's hope. There's a strategy that you can implement for each of your businesses for directs. There's something you can do about it. So thanks very much.
Thank you.